All right, y'all can hear me?
Thank you, sis.
All right, listen, give a round of applause for y'all. All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Good evening and welcome to Whining While Black. It's a live panel, and this is just a blessing. My name is Bryan Pointer. I'm your host. I'm an educator, advisor, and PhD student at the University of Maryland and founder of Whining While Black. And literally, y'all, 2 years ago, I was sitting in a wine bar, by myself, trying to figure out my life and, what I wanted to do and who I wanted to impact. And, one of my friends came in, and I was just in there vibing, and they was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm whining while black." And it literally went from me having a glass of wine by myself to the community being here together. So just thank you so much for being here. This night is special. Yeah, we can clap it up for that. Yeah. This night is special because, of course, we're collaborating with Chosen Family Wines. Shout out to the Creative Block, the Numbers FM, and everyone for helping us put this event together. And today we're really telling the stories of how we've gotten started and really getting into our passion and our purpose. You're going to find like some common things of community, identity, and passion. And as we're having this conversation, I really just challenge all of you to be reflective upon your stories. Of course, wine is the catalyst, but this runs far deeper than that. Joining me today is a very, very special group of people. First and foremost, my best friend and my partner and producer of Whining While Black, Amir Armstrong. Tiquette Bramlett, the founder of Our Legacy Harvested and vice president of Chosen Family Wines, and Channing Frye, founder of Chosen Family Wines, and 2016 NBA champion. So let's give it a round of applause for them.
There we go.
Shout out to y'all. I had to give you your flowers.
It's a little thing.
All right, so Tiquette, let's start with you.
Oh, God.
So just give the people a little bit about yourself and your story and who you are.
Yeah, so I'm originally from the Bay. I came up here in 2015. My plan was to just stay for 6 months. I was going to work at Harvest, work in the front of the house at a winery, and then move on. And I ended up getting brought on full-time at that place where I started. I really had an opportunity to really start learning there and plugging into community, and they kept promoting me through that space, and I was there for about 5 years. When COVID happened, that was where the opportunity started thinking about, like, what do I want to do for myself? What's the bigger picture for me in wine? And that's where I started Our Legacy Harvested. And so our mission with that is to bring people of color into the wine industry, specifically here in Oregon. And during that time for myself, I also had a job transition where I started working for Bertoni Fasten, who's the first black winemaker in Oregon. I helped him open his downtown space here in Portland. And for me, that was a really eye-opening moment of seeing that I can share wine my way. There doesn't have to be, you don't have to go by the book of what other people tell you. You do it the way that you feel comfortable. And Bertoni really lit me up with that and saying, with Our Legacy Harvested especially, like making it what I want it to be. And I founded that. We brought our first group of interns in 2022. And a lot of them ended up staying in Oregon, which was great for us to see. And some ended up moving on with their careers, and we always love to say it's bigger than wine in our space. We always want to be able to amplify the person, right? So if we get to be a part of that story and motivate them in some way to take that next step, like that's what we're here for. And then I started working at Capri Vineyard in 2022, and I was president there for a year, and then I met Channing. And then, a year later, I started working for Chosen, and the rest is history.
Right. History.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Channing, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Well, I was born in 1983. Man, basically, literally, I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. Really, just basketball was my life. Played 14 years in NBA, won a championship. Had pretty good success there. Got traded here my second year, ended my second year. Fell in love with Portland, just because coming from New York, coming from Phoenix, things were a hassle. Here, things weren't a hassle. And I think, for me, growing up in a desert and then living in a forest and having seasons was actually real nice. And during the season, during when you play basketball, I'm only here during the summer for 2 months. During the best months, so Portland looked a little different to me. I've been retired 5 years. I split my life into three parts: wine, my family, and TV. I joke, like I just got back from Atlanta. I go to Atlanta every week. I work for NBA TV. I joke around with people, and it's like, this is my fourth year being a civilian. Like, making my own schedule is weird. I know people take that for granted, but I've never had my own schedule. I've never been able to say, like, you know what, like, today I don't want to do nothing. Right? It just never was that. We started Chosen during the pandemic, but it started before that. Really got into wine the minute I moved out to Oregon. I've never seen a vineyard before in my life. I'm a big people person. I'm a big conversation person. My whole life has revolved around that. When you go out to vineyards, especially out here, there's no cell service. And you look, you sit, you drink, you enjoy each other's company. You got another 15 minutes to drive somewhere, then another 45 minutes. So it's all about the camaraderie. Where the name Chosen Family came from, I know people are probably asking. It literally came from the best and worst time of my life. We won a championship in June, like June 22nd, Father's Day. And then my mother and father died within the month of Halloween and Thanksgiving. So after that, I was like not myself, not bubbly Channing, not happy, half glass half full. But my teammates and my friends and people that I've known since college and high school, they became my family. And they know that camaraderie, that empathy, that like, let's joke around and, make fun of who's on TV or look at that, trash play on TV. Like, people sometimes don't take advantage of laughing enough, right? And so when you have a bottle of wine, it's a conversation starter. Right. If I got nothing to talk about, you're like, oh, why'd you bring this? Even that right there, I've been, so many dinners with people I have no clue about. I'll order a bottle of wine that means something to me. It could be $30, it could be $300. And by the end of the meeting, we're like, man, are we best friends? That's where wine really got me. Right. So I feel like, to fast forward all this, Chosen is my dream, of my opportunity to live another part of my dream, to just bring people to the table. We talk about that all the time, but I feel like we do embody that. Like, we want you to enjoy it. We don't want you to ask us what the tasting notes are unless you want to nerd out, which we're cool with.
Right.
Is it good? Do you like it? We got other stuff for you. Like, enjoy the time off. We working hard for all this. We don't need to inundate you with, oak regiment and clones. Like, do you drink the wine and sit down and shut up? Like, get it, like, veg out. So it's been 3 going on 4 years with Chosen, and we're just evolving and growing. And to have an opportunity to speak to you guys is huge. Because, when we do it during the pandemic, we're doing it on Zooms. Yeah. And now we get to do this in person. And, just seeing this room filled with just a different demographic of what we deal with 90% of the time is great. It's what we want. It's why, like, we push so hard, not only make good product, but to be real about every time we pour a glass. It's like, it's an intentional glass. This is not for Channing's pockets, right? Nobody gets in the wine industry for Channing's pockets. This is because I love this, we love this, and we feel like we could do this, and we want to do this for the next 20, 30, I think the word is legacy. That's what we want.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Wine is the connector always.
Yeah.
Always.
So Amir, go ahead and tell us about you.
What's up, everyone? My name is Amir. Wow. It's funny. Just celebrated like 5 years being out here in Portland. Originally from Philly, raised back and forth between South Jersey and Philly, growing up. Crazy enough, Bryan's family and my family members know each other, so I guess we were kind of destined for this. But yeah, moved out here in 2018, Halloween. Crazy enough, what brought me out here was not a brand that was here. It was an Italian brand called Diodora, and I was on an island. Literally the only person that was sent out here. I think I finished grad school, and I met with some of our leadership over in Italy, and they were like, okay, we want to send you to run everything west of the Mississippi. I was like, okay. So I came out here, did that for a few years, ended up working for an agency called Thesis, where I was a PM over at Nike, so I sat in North America. Shout out to my Nike folks that are here. After that, I ended up being a producer at Wieden and Kennedy, where I'm at now. It's been, I look at my 3 years, I look at my 5 years over in Portland, and it's been magical. A lot of you I know in here, and I didn't know any single person when I first moved here. I have a run club as well. Shout out to Deadstock Coffee. If you've come to my run clubs, we every Tuesday at 7, shameless plug. I'll let y'all know that one time, even through the winter. But yeah, you know, it's been a blessing to not only be able to build community out here, but also make new community as well.
Yeah.
And also be able to share my community with you, brother.
Yeah, appreciate that. And I think a common thing, something that unites all of us is friendship. And Tiquette and Channing, I've heard that you two have different versions of how you've met. You both tell, you know, that version. How did y'all become to be friends and to work
Well, I'll
together?
let her go first, because no matter what I say, I'm going to be wrong. So it's like, you know, I'll let you go first.
Well, so I thought the first time we met was the Oregon Wine Symposium.
Oh, I forgot about that. Well, here's where listen, as a good shooter, you're supposed to have bad memory.
Yeah.
But that doesn't translate to the real world. Right. So for me, when we were on that, what I call the circuit, when we first came out, I was meeting everybody. And I always remember, I was like, oh, a black woman? What's this? Okay. Wow. Ooh, okay, sister, what's up? And then she was like, oh, Channing, what's this and this? And she hit me with wine words, so I had to turn that part of my brain on. I said, okay. And then we became, like, wherever that was, it may be the symposium. And maybe I was like, oh, word, like, this is tight. Like, we could talk. Yeah. Right? And I think, it might have been one of my events where we formally were invited, or it might have been a symposium. But it's rare. It is rare.
It might have been one of them.
That is true.
For me, and this is not just because it's Channing, it's just how I live. I travel. I meet 1,000 people all the time. Yeah. But I remember that, you know, and I've never hired or fired or anybody in my life. I've been in charge of me and my family my whole life. So I was like, yo, she got to be part of the team. Right. So people at the time were like, yo, we got to get Tiquette. She was like, she got a job. I said, well, we gonna work that out later, you know, whatever. But regardless of where we met, I remember distinctly feeling like, yo, Tiquette is exactly what Chosen needs. I'll say that.
Well, thanks, Channing.
Yeah, I'm learning. I'm learning. You listen, you're 40. You got to don't argue.
So is that the true story?
Right. T, what's your version?
I mean, I swear the first time we met was in the green room at the Oregon Wine Symposium, because I was like, who is this tall male coming in this room? And then he poured the wine, and I was like, oh, they make actually good wine.
Oh,
right.
Like, I was like, right. Well, because I was like, respectfully, of course, like, you go on the assumption it's a celebrity brand. I was like, I don't know. And I was pleasantly surprised.
That's the best, worst compliment. It's the best, worst compliment ever. I hear that. I'm like, oh, it's palatable. I'm like, damn.
Right. And the wine is good, Joe, right?
Right. Thank you. You know, that is a funny thing, right? Because sometimes you get in these rooms and they have assumptions and they use words, and I'm just like, guys, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to talk to you about clones and, you know, like, you know, terroir and this. I was like, man, do you like the wine or not? But it is challenging at times, you know, especially the way I look. I got a lot of things against me, but it's also fun to be competitive and be like, oh, you want to talk about that? Let's talk about that for 20 minutes until me and you, like, could go at it a little bit, and then we're friends.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so fun, especially pouring these wines, because it surprises so many people. Mm-hmm. And I always like that, where we catch people off guard, and that's where we've got them, right? And so, like, we are able to share an experience with them in a way that nobody else really has. And especially in our wine community, people are used to it being really formal and just a really unapproachable experience. And that's not what we're about in any way, shape, or form. If you ever come to one of our events, it's like, we're all in sweats, there's a DJ, there's music, you know, it's like, and, you know, people are like, what am I supposed to be tasting? And the first question is always like, do you like it? Let's start there. Like, tell me if you like it, and then, just keep on sipping.
Yeah, and I think that's what intimidates people about getting into wine. Like, oh, I have to know every single thing about it.
Right.
But, you know, the space that you all have created for people to get introduced to wine has been, you know, amazing. And just, you know, transitioning to you, Amir, I've met Amir over 10 years ago now, which is crazy. We kind of sized each other up, you know, because we were both on the track team. I'm looking like, who is this guy? But, 10 years later, we still rocking, and it's crazy. Amir was that student that sat in the front of the class. He was always just engaged, and you were trying to figure out, what you wanted to do because we were sport management majors, but always engaged in trying to find, your voice. So how have you come to, have your creative voice now?
Man, I would say, I credit the people that are around me. I credit my mentors as well because, I think a lot of it is people instilling in me confidence, right? I think the interesting thing about confidence is anybody can have it. You don't know if it's real or fake, if it's a facade or anything like that. But being able to hold tight to that and be able to find my voice, I feel like others saw it in me before I saw it in myself, which was huge. You know me, we've lived together as roommates. We were teammates at Delaware State.
The best HBCU, sorry.
Even when I
Shameless plug, shout out to
even when I transferred to LIU, it was different.
Okay.
But I would definitely say being able to build that confidence in myself and be able to take shots. Things that I was interested in doing, I wanted to do. I could figure things out, whether I was an expert about it or a novice. I'm not scared to take risks. I'm not scared to not know anything. I have no problem with asking questions. So I feel like I've been a student through life, and I think what's helped me really build that voice, and I mentioned the people around me, but being able to soak up, be a sponge. I see that certain people are good at certain things, and also understanding what I lack at that given time, and being able to take that stuff and apply it to myself. So that's been one thing that's helped me really find my creative voice, be confident, as well as execute. You know me, I'm big on this got to be done. It don't matter the time frame, whatever, I'm gonna make it happen.
Right.
Sleepless nights,
Right.
anything. So and that's
Right.
where I'm at with it.
Yeah, and it's nothing like having those people around you that push you, because that's something that you always did for me. Me being in education, I'm just so used to just teaching and, consulting and, just talking to people. When you challenge me to be creative, and when I was sitting in a wine bar, I'm like, what do I want to do with wine? How am I going to figure this out? And I was scrolling through Instagram, and Our Legacy Harvested popped up. I was like, I would love Whining While Black to be this. And then once I met Tiquette, she was like, oh yeah, I founded this thing called Our Legacy Harvested. I'm like, yo, that was just crazy to me, because you really served as the inspiration for Whining While Black and what I wanted to do. So just thank you for doing that. But how did you come up with the idea of Our Legacy Harvested? Did you just know that was going to happen, or what was that process like?
So it was really born because of my grandfather. My grandfather was the first Black mechanical contractor in the state of California. So he grew up in a space and lived in a space where there were a lot of no's. It was a lot of, you're foolish for thinking that you're capable of doing this. And respectfully, he sat there and gave him a finger and said, watch me. And he ended up starting his own business. And now my uncles, my dad, my cousins are all part of that business. And I watched him build a legacy, but not just for our family, but for community. So he never hired somebody that did traditional schooling. It was always somebody that had come out of prison and was looking for a leg up. It was always our neighbors. It was always reaching out and saying, you have this opportunity to be plugged in with an HVAC company. Do you have any interest in this? I'll mentor you. We'll figure out how to pay for programming for you and just get you started somewhere. And that was what I grew up always witnessing. Like, that company was full of my aunts and uncles, right? And they were always a part of our house. So I carried that with me wherever I went. And he would always remind us, it's our responsibility to build our own community and to bring our people in. So when I was thinking about the wine community, I was looking around the spaces and I'm looking around these tasting rooms and I'm like, I know I'm not the only Black woman that likes wine. I know I'm not the only person of color that likes wine, but where are we? And when the pandemic happened, all of a sudden, the beauty of social media, it opened up a whole new world for me of getting plugged in with so many Black and brown somms that were out there. And I was like, how come we don't know each other? And why do people feel so unsafe being in the spaces together. Well, we're going to fix that. And I was like, the pandemic was the perfect time for me to really sit and think about what I wanted it to look like, especially here in Oregon with the historical context that Oregon has, and saying like, my first priority and my only priority is that my people feel safe, right? So when I was thinking about bringing interns out, first thing I did is I went and talked to mayors, I went and talked to the police departments in the community, because I was like, they're not gonna have a problem walking around these towns. I want it clear that they are going to be treated like the rest of this community surrounding them. So coming out to wine country, it's nerve-wracking, yes, because there's not a lot of us out there, but I want us to feel safe and I want us to know who we can talk to. So building our Legacy Harvested, it was saying, how can I build a community of support? And so everybody knows who they can turn to when they come out here. And that was what we built. That was starting in 2020, we started that.
Right, now
Yeah.
y'all flourishing,
Yeah.
a blessing.
Yeah.
So Channing, one thing that I see right now, advising, athletes, it's always a hard transition to figure out that next phase in your life. So what was that like for you? And then what made you want to go into wine of all things?
I'm gonna keep it a buck. That shit sucks. That was
Right.
awful. The first 6 months, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Was like I had I don't want to say I didn't have a goal. I didn't have no introspection. When you're in the league, I wake up, regardless of my family, and I go, how do I feel? And I have to do an assessment. How do my toes feel? How do my ankles feel? How do my calves, knees? How do hips? Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Do I want eggs? Do I want, it is detailed like that so that I can be the best version of myself. And then I destroy myself to so that I could be better. I have to reinvent myself every single day to go out there in front of millions of people for maybe 20 minutes. And then after the game, completely put it back together, mentally, physically, emotionally. And so when I was done with the league, and I'm not comparing it to people who are in the Army, but I know, I have cousins who are in the Army, who are in the Navy, Marines. They were told what to do and how to do, and your goal is to be your best version of yourself. But my calendar was based on, okay, if I'm done in July, I have 4 days off, then these days I do this. When I was done with the league, I was like, what am I outside of basketball? Which is crazy. Who am I? Since I was 8, I've been watching Jordan and Barkley, and this is my goal. Now it's done, and now I don't even know myself. So first, it took me 6 months to figure out who I was, and then it took me, still to even this day, still figuring out what it's like to really live this and wake up, set your calendar, set your intention. But as Tiquette knows, I'm an early riser.
Yes, I do.
So hey, listen, I'd be like, hey, you don't got to respond to this text. Just know I'm up. My bad for texting you. I know it's on silent. Yeah, wakey. Hey, listen, we got to slang this juice. What's up? So for me, it was about, my wife was like, Channing, break down what makes you happy. And I go, being around my people, because I appreciate every single day. Probably none I can say more than other people, but I will say more than 99% of the world. I appreciate every single day being able to fly across the country, come back every single day. I appreciate that. Being able to do this, just the humility of being able to share these things is great. And then I like food, right? I like to eat. I'm a big fella. And then because just the act of somebody cooking for you, it's selflessness, right? Mm-hmm. And then I like just community. And how can I make an impact somewhere? What wakes me up in the morning? And so I was like, dude, wine. It is literally, I just want to make sure the juice was quality to my standards, which are pretty high. I'm snooty. But also it's about community, because my boys from Arizona, from Washington, from California, they were drinking that BS. And I'm like, man, I got to put you on the game. Y'all, listen, another $20, you can get the hitters. Yeah. Now, they going to wine tasting. Hey, listen. Now they going to wine tastings. Now they're in rooms that they never thought they'd be in.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes me happy. Channing, I'm at the airport. I'm at this wine bar. Oh, you at the wine bar. You're not even at the sports bar now. That makes me happy. That is I never thought I would feel when you're hot in a game, you 2, 3, 4 threes, you win by 20. Now that feeling I get from people going, Channing, this 96 was hitting. I shared it with my dad. Didn't even know. That makes me excited, right?
Yeah.
I never thought I would find that, but I found that in wine.
Right. No, that's beautiful right there. And it's nothing like putting your homies on. It's nothing like it. And I remember when I called you, Amir, and I was like, yo, bro, I got, I'm trying to do something called Wine and Wild Black. And you instantly said, come to Portland. Because I was, I'm still living in Maryland. You said you need to have Wine and Wild Black in Portland and in this space. And I know, we're brothers, but what made you just so instantly say yes to, what we were trying to create with Wine and Wild Black? Because we had the first event, and people don't know, like, Wine and Wild Black was never meant to be a celebration or event. Like, there's another whole backstory to it. So when I came with you to the idea, with Wine and Wild Black, what just made you, believe in this, and specifically in Portland?
First and foremost, I can't help you 3,000 miles away, bro. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. My bandwidth is tight as is. But no, it made sense. You know what I mean? Like I really view Portland. And shout out to people that are born and raised from here. My 5 years here, people have allowed me to move around the way I can move around. They've allowed me to make connections. They've allowed me to do events, and not only do events, but support them as well. So big shout out to the people that are born and raised from here. Like, for real, I feel like they don't get enough love. But part of coming out here is I wanted to really give the community that I feel like I've created and nurtured a different experience, And on top of that, man, you're my brother, bro. So I'm like, hey, we're gonna run something. I gotta be on the ground.
Yeah.
So that was big, man. Right. And it's crazy. Like, Bryan calls me, and if you know me, y'all know what I drink.
Oh my goodness, man. Yeah.
So
yeah. Listen.
White Claws?
Hey, now.
There might be some Henny rolling around somewhere in here. Okay. All right.
But to be able to be, it's funny. Like, as you were talking about your friends and putting them on, Bryan was like that for me. Where I'm like, oh, I get it now. Like, Thanksgiving, y'all know me. I was cooking up, chefing it up. Had me a nice glass, maybe a few glasses while I was cooking. And I was like, I get it. I understand it now. So it definitely was something that, not only believing in you and what, wanting to help you bring your vision to life, because that's just what people in your life and people that love you are willing to do. But also, man, I'm just, when you love people, you want something more for them than you want for yourself, and to be able to elevate, the people around you has been something that I'm, like, that's just, I guess that's probably the biggest thing for me.
Right.
So, I'm blessed that you even hit my line and was like, yo, let's run it.
Yeah.
And to your point, it wasn't really supposed to be an event, but I'm like, yo, we got to celebrate this.
Right. Exactly.
This is your baby. This is your brainchild.
Yeah.
But allowing me to breathe life into it has been nothing but an honor, brother. So
Right. Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Right. Even though when I first told you I was drinking wine, you was like, "What's wrong with you? What you doing? Pick up some Henny." I'm like, "I'm not trying to do that no more. We getting old. Listen, I don't move the same no more."
I cannot confirm nor deny that might have been my response, but we'll just leave it at that.
Right. And it was tough too, because I'm like, it's not a lot of us in this space, and I was doing research over the years, and less than 1% of wineries in the U.S. are black owned. So T, like, what do you think? Why is that gap, that staggering?
I think it's definitely twofold, where historically it was never something that was branded towards our community, right? Like, I think it was made pretty clear with the way that wine was taught and the way that wine was shared. They were trying to let us know that it wasn't for us, right? And I think we have now been brought in to say, you don't get to make that decision for me. Yeah. Right? Like, this is something that I enjoy. We have now witnessed, you think historically about what we've witnessed in business, in society, having a black president. You think about all of these things and being like, what is the reason that I can't? Yeah. Right. And we know that we have the means. We know that we have the abilities. We know how to run a business. So I think now that's why we're starting to see these new steps, this new evolution in the wine industry. And all of a sudden you are seeing these predominantly white brands that have been always promoted in a more European fashion saying like, oh, we're doing this wrong, Like, there's an entire community that we have not invested in, and we're missing out. Right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And T, you're really humble. I was going to run off a list of your accolades, but I'm not going to do that because I know you don't. I know you don't like that. But like, what really is your vision for the people that are coming after you in this industry?
I mean, I want people to live with the same enthusiasm in the space that I do, and just to always know that there is a community of support for us here. And there's nothing that you can't do in the space if it's for you. If you want it and you're living authentically, it's gonna be for you. But you have to stay true to you in that space. You can't let somebody else tell you what you are going to do with your own life. That is always the biggest thing that my family always told me. They were like, these people do not know you, and they are not paying your bills. They cannot tell you what you can and cannot do. And that is something that I have lived with. Channing also knows I don't hear no very well. Like, so I'm working on it. But I mean, I think that that's part of the beauty of living authentically, is saying, like, yeah, you may feel that I can't do that, but just watch.
Right. Yeah. And no matter what, you can always find a way. There's nothing in this world that we can't do.
Exactly.
And Channing, you know, I know one of the things, or one of the missions of Chosen, is connecting people, you know, through all walks of life. So whether it's, you know, wine, like, how can anyone with a creative idea, whether it's a, you know, a winery, a brand that they want to create, like, how does that vision really come to life?
As my mother would say, closed mouths don't get fed.
Yeah.
So, like, you speak up. We got people in this industry, you know, for me especially, like, again, I've never hired or fired anybody. I saw Tiquette, right? And I said, hey, she is on brand. She is exactly what we need, right? And when I have an opportunity to take care of or put somebody in a situation where we can, the way Tiquette and I communicate, no offense to everyone else, is just different.
Yeah.
We get it, right? Mm-hmm. And she protects me and I protect her, right? It just works. And we have this trust, and that trust should be relayed to everyone else that's going out there. If you're doing it right, you should feel no qualms in DMing Chosen Family Wines. Here's my resume. I want to get in the wine industry. Where do I fit? We will take the time. I promise you. I've done this for TV. I've done this for basketball players or whatever. I have not done it for wine yet, which is crazy. Because I think for us, we're still trying to earn trust. But other brands can come up and they just automatically get trust. Yeah. But for us, we make good juice. We're doing things right. We work with the right farmers. We have the right farming practices. We do everything by the book, and people still don't trust us. But what I'm asking from my community is trust us that we're doing it right. We're holding this door open. I don't know if you watch Game of Thrones, but hey, hold the door. You know?
Right.
Come.
Right.
So listen. That's a wild reference. I watched the Game of Thrones too. It was in my head, my bad.
Right. You good,
bro. But honestly, it's like, just speak up.
Yeah.
Speak up. We got connections.
Right.
And that's all we're asking. Speak up and trust us that we're doing it right. Yeah. This isn't a 1-year thing. This isn't a 5-year thing. This is a legacy thing. I got 4 kids, right? And so for me, I want my kids to be able to come to our winery and be like, man, look what we created. To walk in and walk around the fields and be like, oh man, that's a Dijon clone. Or look at my dad harvested this last year. It was a warm year, so these are looking a little dry this year. Whatever. I want them to be educated in that. I wasn't. I've had to read books. I've had to get on phone calls with all these crazy, wild geniuses about wine and just dive into it, listen to podcasts so that other people can benefit from this. Allow me to use my and Tiquette's, education about this to benefit you, whether you're in marketing, which we need, whether you're in finance, which people need, whether you're an engineer, whether you're in construction, all these things are needed.
Yeah.
Whether you're from Chicago, New Orleans, New York, DC, bring that over here.
Exactly.
We need that.
Yeah, right, absolutely. And each of you have found your lane and what you're doing in your life. And one of my favorite quotes of all time are the 2 most important days in your life is the day that you're born and the day that you figure out why. So what was that day like when you all figured out why you were born, and how do you continue to live, through your passion and purpose?
That's a heavy one right there.
Oh,
I go in first. Man, kind of like my beliefs, I think everyone's born with a purpose. That's what life is. Death is when your purpose is fulfilled. No matter how long you've been on this earth, you've impacted somebody, you've served your purpose, and, you move on from there. So I think, for me, I think a pivotal moment, and I promise you, I think I talk about this in every interview, has been the day I read my grandmother's journal. It was like these prompted questions, and she said, there was a prompted question in there, and it read, how do you define success? When you're 12 and you're looking at, things like this, and you don't really know much, you're like, you want the money, the car, the house, all these material things. And, what's kind of crazy about this is she was an educator. Family has over 100 years in Philadelphia. Alma mater is Westchester University, Pennsylvania, where Bryan actually graduated with his master's from, and so did I. And he's the reason I actually stayed home. But crazy enough, I ended up graduating, of course, as a legacy. But my grandmother actually wrote, her definition was the ability to help your fellow human being. And when you read that, at a young age, you don't quite fully understand, but you're like, that's powerful. Yeah. And the older I've gotten, the more it means, the more it means. And every time I try not to get emotional about this, but you look at it, and what that really means to me now is, having the ability to put the people around me on. You can become successful by yourself, and get up, but how can you reach back and pull people up with you? And it's something as simple as success is the ability to help your fellow human being. And that's something that I feel like stuck with me to the point in my heart where I feel like it is my purpose. Not that I feel like it is my purpose. So that's something I try to live I need to stop saying try. Yeah. This is what I live with every day.
Right, absolutely. T?
So for me, the moment was probably back in 2007. It was the week after I graduated from college. I got diagnosed with cancer, and it was something that really reset me because I had a grand plan for myself and what I was going to do, and it really took a moment and knocked the wind out of my sails. And my grandfather was the one that pulled me to the side and said, this is not going to be the thing that takes you, but it is going to be the thing that makes you. And it really got me thinking about what are the things that are most important to me. And the things that are the most important to me are my people and the people that surround me, and what we do for each other, and how we help each other. And so it was every day after that of like, am I living in that space with everything that I do? And I feel like that's the thing that has been my testimony in being able to build the community that I have, and being able to stay up here and build what I have up here, and like get through some of the most challenging moments in my life with that. I had cancer for 16 years, and so going through that and saying like, again, it's not going to be the thing that takes me, right? So always finding joy in those moments, and being able to lean in with the people around me and saying like, I need you in this space right now with me. I need to call you in and see where you are. And everybody would always show up. And I think that's what we do for each other. And that's, for me, like the definition of community. It's you send the signal and we're all coming, right? You don't just get one of us, you get all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, not to be kind of morbid, it was the day a man looked me in my eye and said I was going to die. And that was, I had a heart issue. Everything was fine. Me personally, I had shoulder surgery that year, just had my daughter. It was a tough summer, so I was in a shoulder sling, and then we just had our little girl, our second kid, Margot, and we found out she had cataracts in her eyes, so she was blind. And so, like, all that stress was happening, and so I'm trying to get back I just got a brand new contract. I'm thinking life is good. I'm in the gym crazy. Your boy shredded beef. I go back to the trainer or the doctor, and I'm in a treadmill, and next thing you know, they're bringing in paramedics, and I'm like, what's going on, man? Like, I'm talking to y'all, what's fine? And the man looked at me and was like, yo, we need emergency MRI, this or that. And they found out, like, they thought at the time I had cardiomyopathy, which means like an enlarged heart. So he looked at me in the eye and was like, if you exercise until we figure this out, you're gonna die. You can't get your, so they put all these these things on me, and I had to watch, and I literally could not go up one flight of stairs. If my heart rate went so much, they were freaking out. That's when I found out that basketball was something that I absolutely loved to do. That was not me. I love the competition of it. I love the challenge of it. I love the opportunity of it. But like my teammates, my boys, like my people, that was me. That community, that like connection, that was the thing. I mean, I could call some of my teammates, like I get to work with Jamal Crawford, right, every Thursday. He was my vet, right, in New York, and now we're doing TV together. Right. And we talked, he was like, man, Channing, you didn't even understand how mature you were. I was like, mature, man, I was 20 times big dum-dum. Right. But like just a camaraderie between that, if I needed anything from any of my teammates ever, I was on the phone. I was only Kyle O'Quinn. I played with him in Orlando. Yeah. Good dude, Norfolk State. Yeah. Right? All right, okay. And then he called me. He bought a bottle of wine and was like, yo, Channing, this is hitting. I got to get my people on this. Right. But like, if I was just there to play basketball, I wouldn't have that community with him. I wouldn't have that relationship with him. That's when I found out that it was more than just sports. I'm more than just an athlete and all that, but it's true. I am more than that. Right. And I love challenging that, not only to myself, but to humanize athletes, and also, especially when I do TV, but to also change people's view of who we are after we're done. Right? Because I know a lot of us go into TV, a lot of us stay in basketball. That's just what we know, that's what we love. I love the competition of it. Right. But I can also be a vintner. I could also be a lead at this. I'm putting the time in, I'm putting the trust in, we're putting our passion into this. So that's when I found out that's who I am. That's who I really am.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, thank each and every one of you for, contributing to this conversation. Can we give a round of applause for, for the panelists? Yeah. And listen, the vibe for tonight, Wine and Wild Black was never meant to be a party, but we about to turn up now. But, I just challenge all of you to meet somebody new, connect with somebody, build that friendship, find people in the space and find your community. And thank you all for, pulling up and, supporting Wine and Wild Black and Chosen Family Wines. What?
Yeah, give me a quick set, because we definitely want to give a shout out to Tanya and Tony, who
absolutely
really helped us get this going in this space. Right. So big shout out to the Bodecker Foundation.
Yeah, huge shout out.
Right off the bat, we wouldn't be here without them.
Right.
If you give me a minute, I got something.
Oh yeah. The most important thing that me and Amir wanted to do, one, just thank you for partnering with Wine and Wild Black, and it's just so important in our lives to just give people their flowers. So of course, we had to get you the most beautiful flowers and just thank you for everything that you've done for us and our community.
Well, thank you. I'm a flowers guy now. Listen, I'm not lying. Hey, listen, you can't live in Portland, you ain't a flowers guy. Right. Ooh, okay. How's it gonna be smelling delicious?
Yeah.
Where's Tanya?
Yeah, they upstairs. It's all right. We'll give them to them. So listen, y'all. We about to turn up, lean in, grab a glass, and keep Wine and Wild Black, y'all. She'll give us our theme music.